So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. So guys, Callum Smith has questioned whether Billy Joe Saunders has enough power to beat Canelo Alvarez. Does he have enough power to beat Alvarez? He basically said that he doesn't think that he'd be backing Billy Joe Saunders as a Brit. Hopefully he can do it. But he just said that is Billy Joe Saunders going to have enough power to keep Canelo off of him? Canelo's very strong, very, very good boxer. And when he's coming forward, does Billy Joe Saunders have anything on those shots to stop him in his tracks? And the answer is no, he doesn't. However, did Mayweather show that you don't need power to beat Canelo? Because Mayweather was never really hurting Canelo. He was never really going to stop Canelo. And Saunders is kind of in the same boat where he's not going to stop Canelo. The problem is a lot of people keep saying that this is going to be Canelo's trickiest fight trickiest fight after Mayweather. And, is this guy going to be a puzzle very hard to fix for? Is he going to be a very hard puzzle for Canelo to solve? And the answer is Floyd Mayweather is a unique fighter. Floyd Mayweather is defensively very, very good. Billy Joe Saunders defensively is nowhere near in Mayweather's class. Not even close. Like, it's not the fact that Mayweather's hard to hit and he's fast and he's got great reflexes and he's got the shoulder roll. It's not Mayweather. Malignaggi said something about Mayweather. You know what makes Mayweather so difficult is the fact that he's so hard to read. You don't know what Mayweather's going to do. Mayweather gives you so many different looks in a fight, right? You don't know what he's going to do. And that's the problem. For someone like Canelo's boxing IQ wasn't developed enough at that point to be able to know what Mayweather was doing. Mayweather was always ahead of the game. His brain was too sharp, right? His brain was too sharp. It was just too sharp. And Mayweather kept changing the looks and Canelo didn't know what to do. He became clueless at a point where Mayweather was teeing off at him at certain points in that fight. Because Canelo just didn't know what to do. Canelo was getting embarrassed in there because Mayweather was so ahead of the game. He was so much sharper. His boxing IQ was on another level. And people say, oh, well, Canelo will beat. No, the best Canelo doesn't beat the best Mayweather if they were to fight in around the same way. I'm not talking about Mayweather fighting at 168. I'm talking Mayweather fighting at a weight class where he's capable of fighting at. Mayweather's boxing brain is a lot better than Canelo's boxing brain, even though Canelo's boxing brain IQ is on another level now as well. But Mayweather's boxing brain and boxing IQ was on another level. Saunders is very good defensively. However, he's very good against a certain type of fighter. He's very good against David Lemieux, who's very flat-footed. If you give Billy Joe Saunders a fighter who's very flat-footed, right? He'll box his ears off. Saunders would box his ears off. Saunders has got good skills, got good hands, good feet, right? But Smith is right that he hasn't got the power to keep someone like Canelo off. Canelo is too good. He's too good. His boxing brain is too good. And the problem Saunders is going to have, here's what the problem Saunders is going to have. Saunders is going to be doing the same thing throughout the fight. As I said, it's going to eventually become predictable for Canelo. Canelo's going to know what he's doing because Saunders he's not going to have a plan B and C. He can't because he has to do one thing, which is to box. He has to box a perfect fight for 12 rounds. He has to use his legs, use his hands, right? Use his foot speed to get out the way, right? And he's going to be making the same moves all the time. He isn't a Mayweather. He isn't going to be changing the looks. I've seen Saunders, all of his fights. He does the same thing. The problem is the guy in the opposite corner isn't good enough to solve what he's doing. And to be honest with you, when I look some of his biggest fights like Eubank hit him so many times, right? Eubank hit him a lot. Andy Lee hit him a lot. Now, David Lemieux was a perfect style for Billy Joe Saunders. David Lemieux had very, very flat feet. Very, very flat feet. Like, his feet were almost stuck in the sand. And that fight became so easy for Billy Joe Saunders because stylistically, Lemieux was made for Billy Joe Saunders. It wasn't the fact that it was Billy Joe Saunders was always capable of that kind of performance against a guy that was made for him like that. He was always going to do that to Lemieux. If you put Lemieux in the ring with Saunders 100 times, he'll do that 100 times because Lemieux is made for Saunders. Lemieux is made for Saunders. Canelo's not. Right? Canelo, see, a lot of people keep saying that, you know, that Billy Joe Saunders is a better boxer than Canelo Alvarez. He's a better boxer. He's the more talented fighter. They said that about Khan as well. He's the more talented fighter. He's the better boxer. Guys, here's what I want to point out, right? Just because you got faster hands and you got faster feet and you're a skilled fighter, which both of them are, right? Saunders is bigger, right? And Saunders was very, very talented. They said, just because you've got fast feet and fast hand doesn't mean you're the better boxer. Doesn't mean you're more talented, right? Canelo is all round the better boxer. Just because somebody's faster, I'll give you an example. The Khan-Canelo fight, right? Canelo was way bigger than Khan, but look at the way that fight played out. Let's go through that fight, right? The first round, Khan came out, right? And he hit Canelo quite a bit. He caught Canelo with a lot of shots. And Canelo was flustered. He had his right eye, I believe, was puffed up a little bit. The second round, Canelo came out, start putting pressure on Amir Khan. He started walking Amir Khan down, walking at him because he wanted. And then you know what? Canelo was throwing a lot of wild shots and missing. He was going headhunting. He was throwing a lot of wild shots and he was missing. Khan was too fast. But Canelo thought, you know what? Let me go to this guy's body, right? Because although a head is a moving target, so it's going to be hard for me to hit. He's faster than me. He's very, very fast. So let me go and target this guy's body. So Canelo started throwing so many body shots. He hardly landed any head shots. He abandoned the head. He said, forget the head. Forget the head. I'm not going to go for the head. He's a moving target. I'm going to forget the head. I'm going to just target that body. He hit Amir Khan with so many body shots to the point where Amir Khan's side of Amir Khan's like rib area was red. Badly red. He was targeting that area. Right? He knew I can't box with this guy in the center of the ring. He's too fast. If I stand with him in the center of the ring, I'm going to get my head boxed off. And he did this. He changed his way of fighting. In the first round, he changed it to start walking him down, throwing wild shots to the head and missing, and thought, you know what? I'm going to target his body because I'm going to be able to hit him to the body. I'm going to slow him down. As Teddy Atlas would say, put water in the basement. And he slowed him down. He slowed him down to the point where eventually, where Canelo got back to the center of the ring and he knocked Amir Khan out in the center of the ring. Because he was a lot slower now. Because Canelo had hit him with a lot of body shots. What do you think that is? Do you think that's just sheer size? Or that's not boxing brain or boxing IQ? Do you think all of that was done just by sheer size? No, it was boxing brain. He realized that if he stands in the center of the ring with this guy, he's not going to be able to touch him because he's too fast. So he came out in the second round like a pressure fighter, walking him down, putting pressure on him. Missing shots to the head. He knew I can't land shots on this guy's head. He's too fast at the minute. So he started targeting the body. I can only remember 2 or 3, maybe 4 shots Canelo landed the whole fight on Amir Khan's head. Most of the shots were body shots. Why? Because he knew he couldn't land shots at the head. He's too fast. He's moving away. I'm missing him. I'm missing. So he invested in the body, and he put water in that basement, as Teddy Atlas would say, to slow his legs down. As soon as his legs slowed down, his movement became slower. He became more hittable. And that meant the knockout punch. He feinted to the body because Amir Khan was getting hit a lot to the body. And then he came right over the top with a right hand. What do you think that was done? Do you think that's just him using his sheer size? No. It's his boxing. You've got to know how to use your size. There's many guys that are big. Right? For example, David Lemieux against Billy Joe Saunders. He had power. Lemieux had unbelievable power. If he had hit Billy Joe Saunders on the chin, he could have knocked him cold. But David Lemieux didn't know how to land that power. He didn't know how to land that power. The power's no good if you can't land it. If you can't land power, it's no good. So it's all right having power, but you can't land that power. You're not going to make any dent on anybody. And that's the problem Lemieux had. Lemieux couldn't land that power. The difference is with Canelo. Canelo's got power, but Canelo's got... Here's the thing. He may not have as quick a feet as Billy Joe Saunders. He's got educated feet. He's got educated feet. His feet are more educated than Saunders' feet. Having quick feet and having fast hands, that's all good. That's all flashy stuff. That looks good to the naked eye. Billy Joe Saunders looks unbelievable to the naked eye, especially if you put a guy in with him that's not a very good boxer. He's going to look fantastic. Billy Joe Saunders is going to look fantastic. He's going to look $1 million against a guy like Lemieux. But the problem is with someone like Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is not just a puncher. He's a box puncher. His boxing IQ is better than Billy Joe Saunders' boxing IQ. Believe me, you'll see it when you see the fight. His boxing IQ is better than Billy Joe Saunders' boxing IQ. And that's been developed over experience. That's been developed over fighting great fighters year on year and year. Billy Joe Saunders says Canelo fights all greats past their prime. But he's fighting greats. You learn a lot when you fight great fighters like that. Even if they're a little bit past their prime, you learn a lot. He's fought many good fighters. He's learned a lot from being in the ring against those fighters. He's learned a lot from every different style he's fought. He's learned a lot from, right? The problem is with Saunders. Saunders hasn't been prepared well enough for this stage, in my opinion. So from what I've seen from Saunders' career so far, I don't think he's been prepared for a Canelo fight. And what I mean by prepared, Canelo's the best out of 160 and 168. He's elite of elite. He's the best, most skilled, most rounded fighter out of all of the 160 and 168 pounder, right? Billy Joe Saunders hasn't fought the top 10 in his weight division at 168, and he hasn't fought the top 10 at 160. The guys that he's been fighting are way below. So what I mean is, if we look at all the top fighters at 160 and 168, Billy Joe Saunders hasn't fought any of them. So Billy Joe Saunders is jumping from Martin Murray, right, who was a good fighter in his day, but even Martin Murray in his prime to Canelo would be a huge step up, a huge jump up, right? It would be a massive step up. And I just don't think he's been prepared well enough, right? I just don't think his competition has been good enough to this point to prepare him for a Canelo fight. And that's the problem. If Billy Joe Saunders had been in there with an Andrade, with a Charlo, I would say, you know what? He's prepared. He's been in with, all right, Andrade and Charlo aren't as good as Canelo, but nevertheless, he's been in with someone world-class in around his weight division and he's beaten well. I just don't think he's been prepared well enough. I think he's fought guys like Eubank, Lemieux, Andy Lee. These are a certain level type of fighters. These aren't, in my opinion, world-class at the weight or even elite at the 160 or 168 pound division. And I think that's going to be the difference in the fight, is the fact that Canelo's got so much experience against so many great fighters, whereas Billy Joe Saunders hasn't got that experience against so many great fighters. And that's the problem here. It's not just the fact that Canelo's boxing IQ has been developed by fighting so many top names that he's been in the ring with. That's how his boxing IQ has been developed, because when Canelo early on in his career wasn't the finished article, he's improved. Canelo wasn't a Roy Jones, naturally gifted, very talented guy. You know, he wasn't. He's improved. He's improved massively over time. His boxing IQ, his boxing brain has improved over time. He wasn't the finished art. That's why when he fought Floyd Mayweather outclassed him and made it look so easy, because Canelo's boxing brain and boxing IQ at that point wasn't, even though Canelo had so many fights, and you can argue that Canelo had fought better fighters than Billy Joe Saunders has, now that Billy Joe Saunders is getting in the ring with Canelo. Canelo, when he fought Mayweather, had fought better fighters than what Saunders has done now. And yet, he still was, his boxing brain and boxing ability was still nowhere near the level to be in the ring with someone like Floyd Mayweather, and it showed on the night. It showed on the night. And the other thing is, right, the other thing I want to mention is, Canelo is also somebody that lives the life. We know that Billy Joe Saunders blows up in weight, We know that Billy Joe Saunders blows up to 200 pounds. Right now, we've seen Billy Joe Saunders' weights. Someone was pointing out on his Snapchat, I don't know whether that was an old picture, that Billy Joe Saunders looks kind of heavy. I don't think so, because I saw on Instagram, he didn't look too heavy to me. But we know that Billy Joe Saunders is a guy that blows up in weight. We've seen that in fights. He's looked at over 200 pounds at certain pictures I've seen him. And that also shows that he's not always been living the life as a boxer. And Canelo Alvarez is somebody that lives the life. We know that, because Canelo's never out of shape. Canelo's always in shape. So that's another issue for Billy Joe Saunders, the fact that he's not been living the life. And when you have to cut so much weight, that takes a lot away from you. That takes a lot away from you. Just ask Ricky Hatton. The fact that Ricky Hatton blew up in weight and then he had to come down, that takes years off your career. Also, it affects your stamina as well in the later rounds. It'll affect your stamina if you keep blowing up weight and then having to come down. It really hurts your stamina later on in the fight, especially when you're being pushed in a hard fight, when you're fighting someone like Canelo, who's a beast, who's going to push you. Right? It's going to that stamina is going to be tested. And if you're blowing up and not living the life, that's also going to be a problem for Saunders against Canelo. So there's a lot of things that Billy Joe Saunders is going to overcome. And another thing that people are going to mention, well, Fury did it. Fury blew up in weight and then he came down. Firstly, Fury's a heavyweight. So although Fury blew up in weight, they don't have to diet to make a particular weight. They can come in at weight. Obviously, they're going to come in at something which enables them to fight at their best, but they don't. A heavyweight is a unique division because they don't have to make weight. Billy Joe Saunders has to make weight. There's a difference. When you're blowing up ridiculous amounts and you're a guy that has to make weight, that's a problem. Heavyweights are different. Heavyweights are a lot bigger, right? They don't have to make weight, right? And Fury in himself is a very unique fighter. Fury's, like I said, I've always said that I don't think Saunders is Fury. Saunders is a good fighter, but he's no Tyson Fury. I've said this. And also, there's no Canelo in the heavyweight division. There's no one with Canelo's kind of boxing brain, boxing IQ. There's no one in the heavyweight division that I see with that kind of boxing IQ. And Fury's probably got the best boxing IQ in the heavyweight division. So he's going up against guys that are less, in my opinion, less talented, not got the IQ and the boxing brain he's got. So he's got an upper hand. Saunders is now going in the ring. Saunders is been blowing up weight. And he's also not got the experience that Canelo's got. And he's going up against somebody that's got a better boxing IQ and a better boxing brain. So all the odds are stacked in Canelo's favor. Everything's stacked in Canelo's favor when you look at it. So this is not me hating on Saunders. Like, if Saunders wins, listen, I hope Saunders wins. It'll be great for boxing. It'll be great for British boxing. But someone messaged me and said, why are you being harsh? Why are you not giving Saunders? It's not the fact that I don't want Saunders to win. I'd love Saunders to win the fight. It's just that watching boxing for so many years now, right? Very rarely when you jump up the levels that Saunders going to jump up against Canelo, that he's going to be jumping. He's going to be jumping levels. You know what, Saunders, the level that he's been in the ring, the highest level the best fighter that he's fought in his career, Canelo is levels above that. He's going to be jumping levels. And usually when you jump that many levels, in boxing, the boxing history will show you normally come up short. Very few fighters. Yes, we look at the upsets and we look at the guys that have managed to shock us and pull off the upset. Yes. But that's very few and far between. Usually the favorite wins. And is Billy Joe Saunders going to be an exception? I doubt it very much. But like I said, as a British fight fan, I hope he pulls it off. I hope he goes there and I hope he knocks him out. But I've just got to be honest and realistic and tell you how I see the fight. And that's how honestly I see the fight. I agree with Callum Smith 100%. I don't think Saunders has the power to keep... If Saunders had power with that boxing ability, it would be more of a problem. Because Canelo could... Like, when we saw Golovkin's a very good boxer. See, being a good boxer just doesn't mean that you're nimble on your feet and you got fast hands and you can move and you got great movement. That's not being that's not necessarily mean that you're a great boxer. Yeah, you can box. You've got a great amateur style. You can box. But there's more to boxing. You see, Golovkin's a great boxer. Look at the way Golovkin cuts off the ring. He's got very educated feet. His feet aren't as fast as Saunders. Saunders got really quick feet. But Golovkin's got educated feet. He cuts off the ring very well. He's got power. All of these things. And he knows how to use that power. He knows how to land that power. He's got great punch selection. He knows when to throw and when not to throw. He knows what punch to throw and when to throw it. He's got great punch variety. Canelo's the same as Golovkin. Canelo's got great punch variety. Canelo's got unbelievable punch variety. Uppercuts, right hands, left hooks, jab to the stomach, body shots. He's a completely all-rounded fighter. Canelo can knock you out with a body shot. He can knock you out with a right hand. He can knock you out with a left hook. Hit you with a huge uppercut that can hurt you. The guy's just a well-rounded fighter. He's just a very well-rounded fighter. Saunders hasn't got that much in his arsenal compared to Canelo. Canelo's got so much in his arsenal. He can fight as a pressure fighter. He can box you in the center of the ring. You know, there's so many things he can do. He's got a lot of power. He sets traps. He's just very intelligent. He's very calm inside that ring. And that's another thing I'm gonna want to see from Saunders is when Canelo's putting pressure on him and pressuring him with his educated feet and walking Saunders down. Is Saunders gonna panic or is Saunders gonna be able to be calm under pressure? That's another thing that's gonna be very interesting to see, because normally when a guy's being hurt, right, you can see he's starting to unravel. Is Saunders going to unravel? Is Saunders going to be able to stay calm under pressure? That's also going to be very interesting to see in the fight. Is Saunders going to stay calm under pressure, or is he going to unravel and start making mistakes and play into Canelo's hands? And that, again, comes with experience. Saunders has never been in a fight where someone's been able to put pressure, not because he's so good, because of the fact that he's never been in the ring with somebody that will test that. And on May the 8th, he will be in the ring with somebody that will test that. In my opinion, I feel like Billy Joe Saunders should have fought an Andrade or a Charlo. And neither of those guys are as well-rounded as Canelo, by the way. But if he had fought those kind of guys and beat those kind of guys, I would have said he would have been more prepared for a fight with Canelo. Listen, he's going to have to go in there and back up his boast, because he's been saying he thinks over for so many years that he beats Canelo. Time will tell now whether he beats Canelo or he doesn't. But that's my breakdown. That's why I think Canelo's going to be too much. And I agree with Callum Smith that I don't really see anyone beating Canelo at the 160, 168 pound division. Forget Saunders. I don't see anybody beating them in these two weight classes. I think he beats them all. So Saunders might be the trickiest test. He might be tricky. He might not. He might be the easiest. We just don't know. He'll have to go in there and prove his worth. Let's see if he can do it. Leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.